Oh, welcome. Welcome to Silver Shares here today. Welcome, Gawin. Thank you for being with us again. It's an honor to have you on board with us. I would like to thank my viewers also for being here today and for watching. So I hope that you are well, whatever you are, as we discuss health and wellness today. Being a Monday, we want to start off the week in a much better shape so that we can be able to take advantage of our businesses and be in a position to run the businesses and to enjoy the success once we are in good health. So, Gawin, perhaps you could tell our viewers who you are, what you do, and how they can find you so that my followers can also get to, follow you and be able to take advantage of the best services that you are offering to helping people getting better.
Sure, of course. So welcome everybody to join this live session with me and Sylviah. So first of all, my name is Gawin Lim, and basically I do law of attraction coaching, and also I help people to actually come out of depression and anxiety and stress to realize that they can actually take control of their life, basically to change their perspective of life and to basically taking control and start living their life. So you can search me on, I think, basically every social media here. You can search me on Facebook, you can search me on Instagram, even on YouTube, I'm on there. I'm just not very active on Twitter because that is not the way I move. I'm also on Clubhouse where I host room every Monday, Wednesday, Friday. So it's the same thing. You can just search my name, Gawin Lim, on any social media. It will come out instantly. Yes.
Great. So thank you so much for being with us again. And for those who are watching, we hope that you are taking care of your health in the best way possible. But there are times when we go through certain things that sometimes you don't even realize it yourself, and that you don't recognize that it could be a problem. And so this is what Gawin is going to take us through, to perhaps also enabling viewers to understand that there could be a problem. There's a way you can handle it. And the reason why I enjoy having to work and do this with Gawin, for example, is he tries to look for ways to help people without the the medications and everything, because it has a lot of impact on people and long-term impact. But his methods have proved to work so well in such a way that people are able to gain awareness of themselves and to be able to recover in not necessarily in a faster way, because I will not try and push something, because it needs time. Healing always takes time for every individual, but his methods have proved to work with time much better. So I hope you're going to stay tuned with us as we discuss today about Gawin, depression and recovering from depression.
Yes, basically. So today what we are going to discuss is basically how for people to actually come out from depression, also for people who are usually at stress or even anxiety, and they feel that they are not worthy, and put it simple, that people, they think that they are useless, especially in nowadays where everything is happening. The pandemic is still going on, people losing their job, people staying at home couldn't come out, and also financial stress. There is a lot of stress happening all around the world. So people tend to get a lot of stress and anxiety in life. And some, even in a while, people fell into depression, even they think that they are useless in this life. So what I would like to share today with Sylviah, because both of us came out of depression, is to actually share how can we actually come out of depression and actually work on with our life to actually build our life the way we wanted it. So basically, this is basically what I do, because for the past few years, I came out of my depression and I started to take control of my life and start living and build my life the way I wanted it. So right now in this life, what I want to do is actually to share how people can actually do this too, to also move their life to another level and start to take control of their life, to be confident, to be the leading and be the writer of their own book, so that they can step up and live their life their way.
Yeah, yeah. And perhaps, Gawin, we could try first and try to describe how the situation, how somebody, sort of reacts to get into realizing like, oh, you think I'm depressed, or you think this is probably what is happening to me? Because if I remember, for example, in my scenario, it had to take a little bit of force for at least 5 people to make me understand like I need to seek help. It happened 2017. I had lost a huge business. We had lost like everything. But what I wasn't realizing is like we still had us, we still had ourselves. But at that point in time, you're feeling like everything is gone. And so personally, I spent days crying. Like I would spend like maybe 5 hours crying straight, like uncontrollably. I didn't smile for like maybe like 5 months. For people who know me, like I'm always smiling as much as possible. And perhaps just talking about the signs, the headaches, the sleepless nights at times, you are moody, the mood swings and everything. Like maybe if we can describe just this signs, for example, and you also get to talk about probably what you went through, it will help maybe some of our viewers to understand and realize that they could be going through this situation and getting help, and now maybe coming to you eventually to assist them into getting better would help probably somebody who hasn't understood that they're going through the same problem to be aware.
Yeah, of course. I mean, like for people who know me, like right now, people who know me, they always say that I am always the one who is cheerful, or one is always bring a smile to everybody and always at peace and calm. But a lot of people don't really know that not so long ago, I fell into depression because of the job, the stress, all the financial things happening all around me. And what I want to first talk about is the word depression, because a lot of people in this world right now, people are conditioned to actually avoid the word depression. Like people who are in depressed, they try to talk to themselves they are not depressed, and they are not willing to like reach out to people to ask for help, because when people are in depression, they feel like they are worthless, they are bringing trouble to people. So somehow they feel that they can't be the one to reach out for help, or maybe they say that they should not reach out for help. But in fact, it is actually quite the opposite, because it is quite hard for a person who is depressed to actually realize that they are going into depression, because the slide they are going through is so tremendous, they don't actually realize that they are into depression. All they thought that it is just a mood swing, they are just going through a negative period, and this is just how life works, where people always say in their life, like this is how life should work out, going through depression. And what I want to share in the first place is that even for people who are not depressed, even for people who are in stress right now, tremendous stress, or even in tremendous anxiety, always worrying about things happen, the first thing I want to actually give out for people who are really wanting to stop this, let's say, scenario that they really want to come out. The first thing I want to tell people is that they have to just stop. They have to just stop. I mean, like, it sounds simple, but the thing here is they have to actually work in themselves to see the problem is there. So basically, I usually tell to my coaching client is that whenever we want to solve a problem, we have to first realize the problem is there. It's like a mirror, you see. Without seeing the problem in there, you can't fix the problem because you don't know what went wrong. So the first thing, because when we are in depressed, we are going into depression, we are going into anxiety attack or even stress, we don't really realize that we are stressed or we are depressed. The emotion just take over our mind, take over our body, and we just completely lose control. So the first thing I want to share with everyone here who are listening, if you really want to change this situation, I want you to help yourself here to do yourself a homework to increase your self-awareness. How to increase your self-awareness? The first thing you have to do is whenever you realize that your mood changes, like you have been triggered to go into some situation, I want you to bring that self-awareness to tell yourself that, all right, this is the moment. Just by this one thought, just to remind yourself that, okay, this is the moment where you trigger yourself. And remember when or what the situation that will trigger you, because this is the first thing you have to realize. You have to realize where the cause is coming from, that trigger. You see, when people practice this enough, when they actually realize that they are going into stress, they are going into sadness, negativity, or they are going into like some sort of anxiety, when they know that the trigger is there, they realize that this is the moment they are going into that loop again. That's the moment when we can tell ourselves to stop, to basically just stop thinking further. Because this is actually a program inside our brain. It is a loop of program where we triggered that signal, our brain will bring us into that loop of thinking, that scenario, to just throw the same thing to you over and over again, telling you are worthless, telling you that you are not you're not good enough, you can't do this, you are obese, you are ugly, or all sort of things come up in the same thing at the same way. You see, so the first thing I always want people to try to practice is to raise the self-awareness and to just stop going into that loop again.
Yeah.
You see, this is basically the first step that I always share to people, to just the word is stop. But actually there is a few steps to do it. But stop is the moment where we can actually step out and start doing things differently. You see, raising self-awareness will be the same. Will always be the first step. Yeah, come on.
Yeah, sorry, Gawin. But you see now, you say it very easily now, like stop. But you see, in that state of mind, when the emotions have taken control and you're feeling the fatigue, you're feeling the tears, the cries and everything, and all this emotion, you're feeling like a loser and all. But you almost need somebody maybe hearing your words to say stop, for you to realize like, hey, I have to stop doing this to myself, or I have to stop feeling this way, and that I need to get better. But you see, it takes awareness. Like, it takes people who can surround you properly to be able to realize that you need to stop. But imagine, for example, somebody who's going to work all the time, like everybody else, but then there's so much pressure at the workplace. Maybe the relations are not good, or the commitments and the targets that to be attained are very high. And they come home, there's also maybe probably the frustration, and they still have to continue working longer hours. At what point do you, this is not even the right question, like, how do you get them now to wiring their mind to realizing like, hey, you need to stop? So I guess maybe making people aware that, when you start feeling so terrible about yourself, when you start feeling so sick about everything, it's probably the moment when you tell yourself like, hey, you need to get help, or you need to do something about what you're feeling. Because the more you continue tolerating and managing that stressful situation and everything, the more the situation is getting worse. And that's how the deeper depression becomes like chronic or something of the sort. So, but how easy is it to really stop, Gawin? Because you say stop because we have a strong mind now. But imagine somebody in their weakness. How do you manage to really tell them to stop?
Yes, that is a wonderful question that you asked here, because yes, of course, like, people will sure ask this question. I mean, like, it is the same question to discipline, where we want to train discipline. Like we will ask the question of like, how can you make yourself do when you don't feel like doing it? You see, I have this kind of question myself too when I practice all this stuff. So what I shared just now, like, to actually just stop. it takes practice, you see. It takes practice. It's like a muscle in our body. It's like a muscle that we want to train. So if we don't start practicing it, we don't train the muscle. But the more we start to practice it, the stronger the muscle will be, and the faster that you can actually bring yourself out of this situation. Of course, when people start to practice this, where I say like, stop, before you can tell yourself stop, you have to first aware that you are going into this loop. Yeah, this is the first thing. You have to find the trigger. You have to find what makes you go into that state at first. Because usually when people are depressed, when people start to go into the loop of sadness, of negative thought, of worrying, anxiety, and also crying, they are usually alone. Yeah. They don't usually do this with people around them. They are usually at home or inside a car or just stay at a room, not doing anything, because the mind is thinking by itself. So of course, if you have like a partner, if you have a friend that is around you, can remind you of this, of course, that is the best. But for most of the people, that's not the case, because for most of the people, they are dealing this thing with themselves. They are not daring to share. They are not vulnerable enough to just ask for a help. So for people who don't really want to seek for help or really don't have people around them, the first thing is to train yourself to realize when are you going into this state. There is always a trigger behind an action. Yeah. So for let's say, for example, people might go into that depression because they just broke up, like they lost their loved one, and they go into depression, or even they lost something great, something like a very important thing to them, something like a business. Let's say like you yourself lost a huge amount of money. That's when you go into depression. So the moment that triggered that event, it might be that the stress that you have to face all of this major debt, or the stress of don't have the confidence that you usually have. These are the trigger that started the emotion, that started the thinking, the loop of going into that depression, that stress, that negative thought. So the first step I always ask people is to train yourself, to practice yourself, that realize yourself like this is the moment where you start going into that loop. Yes. Obviously, it won't be like you have the control, like the first, second time doing this practice, you can tell yourself to completely stop yourself from thinking. Obviously, you have to take action. Obviously, you have to take action behind it. But the more you practice this, the more you practice the muscle, the more you practice your self-awareness, tell yourself that this is the moment you go through, and this is the moment to stop thinking about it, the more you can actually stop your mind to move forward. And this is also linked to the second point that I want to share in this live Zoom with everyone here, which is whenever you tell yourself to stop, the second thing that you must do immediately is to calm yourself down, is to calm your energy down. Yes, because like, do you ever realize when we go into stress, or we start to feel something, or we go into situation that we don't usually like, our breath moves way faster and our heartbeat start to jump fast. This is a reaction, a chemical reaction inside our body, inside our brain, because it's triggering an emotion inside of us. So when people are stressed, they are usually breathing fast. So the moment that people practice, once you tell yourself to stop, that's the moment you have to put everything down and to calm your mind. So in the last live, where people who really join us, in the last live, I already practiced, I already showed that how people can actually calm yourself down instantly using breath work by just taking deep inhale and exhale a few times, just like. It's just basically this one movement that people can do. You can do this, practice this breath work a few times, and just tell yourself to calm down and stop thinking about it. Stop thinking about it. To calm yourself down. This is the second step where I want to share with everyone, to just stop yourself from going into the loop. And it is the same thing, or like the first step, it takes practice. Is also a muscle.
Yeah.
When people usually tell me that when they tell themselves to stop, when they tell themselves to calm down, and the moment that they stop the breath work, they will start going haywire again. They will start going stress again. Yes, this is basically why this is the starting point. You see, this is a starting point where we start to practice stuff. It tends to fail a few times because we haven't mastered the thing. But this is normal. It's totally normal. You just have to practice more. Even like people because this depends on how our mind is programmed to react to that depression, to that incident, or even trauma. And some people might just have to do like 1 to 2 minutes of breath work, and then they can stop the entire event of going into that depression all over again. But for some, it's not the case. For some, they have to practice breath work to calm their energy down for like 10 minutes, even 15 minutes before they can actually feel that they are coming back to their normal self. You see?
One thing that one thing that also helped me at that point in time in recovery was, you know, the way you can do sports, but in a light way, because probably you're heavy and you're feeling like you just can't do anything. The energy level is so little. But I remember I would walk for like an hour or two to just clear off the mind, but having a powerful audio in the ears as you walk, it's part of how I also just regained a little bit of confidence in wanting even to accept the help. Because at times, you know, when you're telling somebody to go get help, somebody thinks like a psychiatrist, no, I'm not weak, or people will think I'm weak, but nobody cares like whether you go see a psychiatrist or not, because they wouldn't know. They're very private sessions and everything. So I think also accepting just to the idea first to be able to get help. But that's why I like your approach, Gawin, in the sense that, you know, you're giving them a chance to, you know, just relax and get to clear their mind of the negative thoughts, for example. But accepting to get there, it needs a few steps, like now the walking, or if you have energy enough to maybe do some sports, just releasing the negative toxins out of the body somehow helped a lot for me.
Yes, I mean, like this is actually one of the way people can actually like train themselves to calm down. You see, when we go on to the walk, or we go out to ride, or even we do something to actually stop ourselves to going into that loop, we are basically doing an action to focus on something so that we don't focus on going into that loop. And just to share, the moment the practice that you do, like to just go out to walk an hour or two, Tony Robbins practiced this before he becomes such a legend, you know, because if you really hear his story when he is just a normal kid in Arizona, her mother was on drugs and was abusive. The moment that he started to take control of his life start when he decided to stop, and he ran. He walked and ran at the beachside for 3 hours and just repeating, telling himself that he can do this, he can do this, he can do this. Yeah. You see, this is actually an empowerment. Yes, this is the empowerment for you to actually, because when people decide to do things, when people decide to that this is the time that I really need to change, I won't let anything to stop me anymore. And this is the moment where people open up, people are engaging and finding ways to come in. And this is the people that I want to help, because obviously reaching out is a point. Reaching out for help is the thing that we should do. But a lot of people, when they are too afraid to reach out because they think that they are troubling people, they think that this is not a big thing, but it is a serious thing, you see. Because when people go into depression, they can't really be realistic enough. They can't be logical enough. When they fell into that situation, the only thing that is logic to them is that they is something like wordless. this is the only thing that they will believe. You see, other than being in that situation, being in that loop, they can't think anything of but to just sabotage themselves and to just a bit.
Sure. Sure. Creating awareness.